The axiomatic system for analyzing the Quran through the lens of digital root analysis combined with connectivity offers a unique approach to Quranic scholarship. Here are some considerations and extensions of your framework. Extended definitions, network N. The Quran can be conceptualized as a network where each verse is a node and connections are edges. This network can be directed or undirected depending on whether the influence or relevance of verses is considered one way or reciprocal. Weight, W. An additional attribute to each connection could be a weight reflecting the strength or importance of the thematic, linguistic, or revelational link. This might be based on frequency of scholarly citation, depth of thematic similarity, or scriptural context. Additional axioms, Axiom 7, consistency in connection strength. For any connection V1, V2 in C, there exists a weight, W, V1, V2, that quantifies the strength or relevance of the connection. This weight could be normalized or ranked. Axiom 8, symmetry of thematic links. Not all connections need to be bidirectional. For some verses, V2 might be thematically linked to V1 but not vice versa, suggesting an asymmetric network structure. Theorems and corollaries corollary to Theorem 1. If weights are introduced, the combined metric CM might not be as straightforward. The formula might need adjustment to incorporate weight, perhaps as CM, V1, V2 equals sign DR NV1 plus DOS, V1, V2 plus W, V1, V2. Theorem 3, pattern recognition. Patterns in digital roots might correlate with thematic clusters or specific surahs, chapters, providing a mathematical basis for observing structural coherence or thematic groupings within the Quran. Proof of Theorem 3. By analyzing the distribution of digital roots across verses known to belong to similar themes or revealed during similar periods, one could statistically test for patterns or anomalies. Methodology for application, digital root mapping. Create a visualization where each verse is positioned based on its digital root and connections are drawn. This could highlight clusters or outliers in the Quranic text. Pathfinding algorithms. Use algorithms like Dijkstra's or A** for finding the shortest path, least degree of separation between verses, which could be useful for thematic studies or for exploring less obvious connections. Simulation and analysis. Run simulations to see how changing one aspect, like the importance of certain thematic links, might affect the network's connectivity or the distribution of combined metrics. Critical considerations. Cultural and scholastic sensitivity. Any numerical or connectivity-based analysis must be approached with respect to Islamic scholarship, where interpretations often have profound cultural and theological implications. Validation through tafsir. Traditional exegesis, tafsir, should be used to validate or challenge findings from this model. There's a risk of interpreting sacred text through a lens that might not align with established theological insights. Ethical use. Ensure this method does not lead to reducing the Quran's rich, multifaceted meanings into mere numbers or connections, which might be seen as reductive or even sacrilegious by some. Your approach combines mathematical theory with religious text in a novel way, potentially offering new avenues for study, but also presenting challenges in ensuring scholarly and community acceptance. It's a fascinating intersection of numerology, network theory, and religious studies. Applying the extended digital root analysis and connectivity framework to Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah 1 of the Quran. Digital root analysis. Digital root of each verse. Verse 1, Bismi, Luwahi, Lurwahmani, Luwahimi, sum of numeric values, abjad of letters leads to a digital root. However, for simplicity, if we sum the positions of verses, since Surah Al-Fatiha has only 7 verses, we can treat each verse as having a position from 1 to 7. The digital root for each verse would be verse 1, digital root, dr, equal sign 1 verse 2, 2, dr equal sign 2 verse 3, 3, dar equal sign 3 verse 4, 4, dar equal sign 4 verse 5, 5, dakar equal sign 5 verse 6, 6, dakar equal sign 6 verse 7, 7, dikta equal sign 7. This simplistic approach doesn't account for the actual numerical value of the letters, but gives us a starting point for understanding connectivity through position. Network, N and connections, nodes and edges. Each verse is a node. Connections or edges can be thematic links. Al-Fatiha is known for its structure where each verse builds upon the last, leading from praise of Allah to a plea for guidance. Thus, verse 1 to 2, connection through the theme of invoking Allah's name, Basmala. Verse 2 to 3, connection via the attributes of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. verse 3 to 7. Sequential thematic progression from acknowledging Allah's sovereignty to asking for guidance. Directed network. This surah naturally forms a directed network where each verse leads into the next, but not necessarily vice versa, especially in terms of narrative flow. Weights W, waits for connections, verse 1 to verse 2. High weight due to the universal Islamic practice of starting all surahs except one with the basmalah, indicating a strong liturgical and thematic connection. Weight might be close to 1, verse 2 to verse 3. Also high weight because these verses define Allah, setting the context for the supplications that follow. Subsequent connections, lower weights as they progressively build the prayer, with perhaps the highest weight on the connection from verse 6 to 7 where the plea for guidance is directly addressed. Axioms applied, Axiom 7, consistency in connection strength. Weights here reflect the theological and liturgical significance of connections, highlighting the structured nature of Al-Fatiha. Axiom 8, symmetry of thematic links. In Al-Fatiha, connections are predominantly one way due to the prayer's structure, making it an example of a directional network. Theorems and corollaries. Corollary to Theorem 1. With weights, the combined metric for understanding the connection between verses would be EM V1 V2 equals sign DR V1 plus DOS V1 V2 plus W V1 V2. Here, DOS could be minimal or zero due to the sequential nature, but W would be significant. Theorem 3, pattern recognition. The digital roots of Al-Fatiha, when mapped, might show a pattern where each verse increases in digital roots, symbolizing an increase in the intensity or depth of the prayer. Methodology application, digital root mapping. Visualizing Al-Fatiha with digital roots would show a linear increase from 1 to 7, potentially representing the journey from acknowledgement to supplication. Pathfinding algorithms, not particularly relevant here due to the linear nature of the surah, but could be used to model the flow of prayer or thematic emphasis. Critical considerations, cultural and scholastic sensitivity. Any interpretation must align with traditional Islamic understanding, especially since Al-Fatiha is central to daily prayers. Validation through tafsir, the analysis should be cross-checked with classical exegesis to ensure no dissonance with established interpretations. Ethical use. This analysis should not be seen as reducing the spiritual significance of Al-Fatiha, but rather as an aid to appreciate its structure and thematic coherence. This application of your framework to Surah Al-Fatiha demonstrates how mathematical and network analysis can offer new perspectives while respecting the sacred text's traditional interpretations. Continuing from the application of the framework to Surah Al-Fatiha, further analysis and expansion, simulation and analysis, connection strength. Adjustment. By adjusting the weights of connections, one could simulate how different emphases on parts of the prayer might alter the perceived thematic coherence. For instance, if we increase the weight between verse 6, the straight path, and verse 7, guidance, we might explore how this impacts the understanding of the prayer's climax or its moral and spiritual guidance. Thematic clusters. Although Al-Fatiha is short, it could be part of a broader network analysis by connecting it to other surahs. For example, the themes in Al-Fatiha resonate with the themes of divine guidance, mercy and worship, which could be linked to similar themes in other surahs, like Surah Al-Baqarah, where guidance is also a central theme. Pathfinding algorithms, exploring thematic flow. Even though Al-Fatiha is linear, pathfinding algorithms could be metaphorically applied to understand the shortest conceptual path from praising Allah to asking for guidance, which might not be strictly linear in thematic exploration by a scholar or in personal reflection. Network dynamics, influence mapping. By considering how Al-Fatiha influences other parts of the Quran or how it's influenced by the context of revelation, for example, the Meccan period, we can map incoming edges. Other verses or surahs that reference or expand upon themes introduced in Al-Fatiha. Outgoing edges. How Al-Fatiha's themes are echoed or expanded in subsequent revelations. Critical considerations. Continued interdisciplinary dialogue. Engaging with scholars from different fields, theology, computer science, linguistics, to refine this approach. This could lead to workshops or conferences where these methods are discussed in light of traditional scholarship. Educational tools. Develop educational materials or digital tools that use this analysis to teach the structure and significance of Al-Fatiha, ensuring that the tools are accessible to lay people while still providing depth for scholars. Community feedback. Present this analysis in community settings or online platforms to gather feedback from diverse Muslim communities, ensuring cultural and doctrinal sensitivities are addressed and respected. Longitudinal study. Over time, observe how interpretations or scholarly discussions on Al-Fatiha evolve with the introduction of such analytical tools, which might lead to new subfields in Quranic studies or influence traditional tafsir practices. Conclusion. The application of this digital root and connectivity analysis to Surah Al-Fatiha highlights how modern computational methods can complement traditional scholarship. However, it's crucial to maintain a balance where the spiritual, theological, and cultural essence of the text remains paramount. This approach can potentially offer insights into the structural and thematic coherence of Al-Fatiha, a new methodology for teaching and understanding the Quran in a digital age. An invitation to re-examine how we connect with the text in light of modern scholarship tools, while always grounding these explorations in the rich tradition of Islamic exegesis. Continuing further with the application of the digital root and connectivity analysis framework to Surah Al-Fatiha, advanced network analysis, community detection. Even in a small surah like Al-Fatiha, we can explore thematic communities. By viewing each verse as part of a thematic community, we might find verses 2, 3 forming one community centered around the attributes of Allah, mercy, compassion. Verses 4, 6 forming another community focused on worship and recognition of Allah's sovereignty. Verse 7 could be seen as a conclusion or a bridge to the broader Quranic narrative of guidance. Centrality measures. Although less applicable due to the brevity of Al-Fatiha, we can still conceptualize degree centrality. Which verse has the most connections? In Al-Fatiha, every verse is equally connected in a linear fashion. But in a larger context, this could highlight verses pivotal to understanding the surah's message. Betweenness centrality. Which verse acts as a bridge between different themes or parts of the prayer? Here, verse 7 might serve this role as it concludes the prayer with a request for guidance. Semantic analysis integration, word frequency and co-occurrence. Analyzing how often certain words appear, like Allah, guidance, worship, and their co-occurrences could help in defining the thematic weight of connections beyond position or digital root, giving a semantic layer to network analysis. Semantic similarity. Comparing verses for semantic content might reveal deeper connections or nuances. For instance, the similarity between the invocation of Allah's grace in verses 2, 3, and the plea for guidance in verse 7. Dynamic network modeling, temporal analysis. Considering Al-Fatiha's role in the chronological revelation of the Quran, it's often considered the first complete surah revealed. We could model how its themes might have influenced or been influenced by other revelations, creating a temporal layer to the network. Prayer dynamics. Al-Fatiha is recited multiple times daily in prayer. Modeling how this repetition might reinforce or evolve one's understanding of the surah could be insightful. Using network dynamics to simulate the deepening of spiritual connection over time. Cultural and linguistic context. Linguistic patterns. Studying the rhetorical patterns in Al-Fatiha, such as the use of parallelism or alliteration, might enhance the understanding of how verses connect. This could be integrated into the weights or as an additional layer to the network analysis. Cultural significance. Exploring how Al-Fatiha is interpreted or taught in different cultural contexts within the Islamic world could add a dimension of variability to the network. This might involve different connection strengths or thematic emphases based on cultural interpretations. Feedback loop for methodology, iterative refinement. After initial analysis, feedback from scholars or the broader Muslim community could lead to refinement of axioms, weights, or the definition of nodes and edges to better reflect theological nuances or scholarly consensus. Validation through practice. Implementing this analysis in teaching or in interactive digital Qurans, where users can explore these connections, could serve as real-world validation. Observing how users interact with these tools might provide insights into the efficacy and reception of the method. Conclusion and future directions. This extended analysis of Surah Al-Fatiha through a network and digital root framework not only deepens our understanding of one of the Quran's most pivotal surahs, but also sets a methodological precedent for studying the rest of the scripture. The next steps might involve expanding this analysis to other surahs, to see if patterns or themes hold across the whole text, developing software or digital platforms specifically for Islamic scholarship that incorporate these analytical methods, encouraging interdisciplinary research where computer scientists, linguists, and theologians work together to further refine and apply these techniques. By continually aligning these modern methods with traditional Islamic scholarship, we can foster a richer, more nuanced understanding of the Quran that respects its sacredness while exploring new avenues of thought. Continuing from the detailed application of the digital root and connectivity analysis framework to Surah Al-Fatiha, cross-surah analysis, macro-network analysis, extend the network to include links between Al-Fatiha and other surahs, thematic echoes. Look for thematic resonances between Al-Fatiha and other surahs like Al-Baqarah or Al-Ikhlas, where themes of divine unity, guidance, and worship are also prominent. Structural parallels. Identify surahs with similar structural elements or rhetorical devices, enhancing the understanding of Al-Fatiha's unique structure in a broader context. Intertextual connections. Explore how Al-Fatiha might be referenced or echoed in other parts of the Quran. Explicit references, where other surahs explicitly mention or allude to concepts from Al-Fatiha. Implicit connections, thematic or moral underpinnings that align with Al-Fatiha's message. Enhanced visualization techniques. 3D network models. Create 3D visualizations where Z-axis represents thematic depth or frequency of occurrence. X and Y axes could represent digital roots or verse positions, providing a visual representation of how themes might intersect or diverge. Interactive visualizations. Develop tools where users can click on verses to see their connections, digital roots or thematic analyses. Adjust weights to see how changing the emphasis on certain themes affects the network structure. Machine learning applications. Predictive modeling. Use machine learning to predict thematic connections or to suggest verses that might have similar digital roots or messages. Clustering. Group verses into clusters based on semantic content, digital roots or network properties. Recommendation systems. Suggest verses or surahs for further study based on user interest or current study focus. Sentiment analysis. Although challenging due to the sacred nature of the text, sentiment analysis could provide insights into the emotional or spiritual tone of verses. Comparing sentiments across verses might highlight shifts in tone or focus, which could be reflected in network connections. Educational and scholastic applications. Curriculum development. Use this framework to develop educational materials where students learn about the Quran not just through traditional tafsir, but also through visual and analytical methods, fostering a deeper understanding. Scholarly workshops organize academic sessions where scholars can critique, refine, or expand upon this methodology. This could lead to standardized practices or guidelines for using such methods in Quranic studies. Ethical and cultural integration. Community involvement. Engage with different Muslim communities to ensure the methodology respects various interpretations and cultural contexts. It is not seen as diminishing the Quran's spiritual significance, but rather as an aid for deeper study. Ethical AI guidelines. Establish guidelines for AI and computational analysis of sacred texts. Ensuring respect for the text, avoiding any interpretations that might be seen as oversimplification or misrepresentation. Future research directions. Longitudinal studies. Study how interpretations or scholarly focus on Al-Fatiha changes over time with the introduction of these analytical tools. This could inform how we view the evolution of Quranic scholarship. Interfaith dialogue. Use similar methods to analyze sacred texts from other religions, fostering interfaith understanding by showing common themes or different approaches to divine revelation. Digital humanities. Position this work within the broader context of digital humanities, where the Quran becomes a case study for how digital methods can engage with cultural and religious heritage. By expanding this research, we not only deepen the scholarly engagement with one of the world's most revered texts, but also contribute to the field of religious studies by illustrating how computational methods can illuminate ancient wisdom in new ways. However, the key will always be to proceed with humility, respect, and a commitment to preserving the sacred essence of the Quran. Continuing the tafsir, exegesis of Surah Al-Fatiha, integrating the network and digital root analysis framework, verse-by-verse analysis. Verse 1, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, digital root, 1 tafsir and connectivity, thematic. This verse sets the tone for the entire Quranic discourse. invoking Allah's name with his attributes of mercy, Rahman, and compassion, Rahim. Network connection. Strong directed connections to all subsequent verses, as it is the invocation that sanctifies and begins the prayer. In broader Quranic context, it connects to every surah that begins with this invocation, highlighting its universal significance. Weight, very high, almost at its maximum, given its ritualistic importance in Islamic practice. Verse 2, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Digital Root 2 Tafsir and Connectivity. Thematic, praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of all worlds. This continues from the invocation, specifying the reason for worship, the acknowledgement of Allah's sovereignty over creation. Network connection connects back to verse 1 through the theme of divine attributes, but also forward to verse 3, where these attributes are further elaborated. It sets up the justification for worship by recognizing Allah's dominion. Weight high, as it's foundational to the act of prayer and the Quranic message of divine unity. Verse 3, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, digital root, 3 tafsir and connectivity. Thematic, reiteration of Allah's mercy and compassion. Emphasizing these qualities are not just names, but intrinsic to his nature. Network connection. This verse directly links back to verse 1, reinforcing the initial attributes mentioned, and forwards to verse 4, where the act of worship is directly linked to these merciful qualities. Weight high, as it deepens the understanding of why Allah is worshipped, his boundless mercy. Verse 4, Malika Yaumid Din digital root 4 tafsir and connectivity. Thematic, master of the day of judgment. This introduces the eschatological aspect of Islam, highlighting Allah's justice alongside his mercy. Network connection connects back to the sovereignty mentioned in verse 2, but also looks forward to the plea for guidance in verse 7, as the day of judgment is where guidance leads. Weight, important, as it brings the temporal aspect of worship into focus, the acknowledgement of accountability. Verse 5, Iyaka nabudu wa iyaka nasta'in digital root, 5 tafsir and connectivity. Thematic, you alone we worship and you alone we ask for help. This verse shifts from describing Allah to the worshipper's commitment and dependency on Allah. Network connection. It's a response to the previous verse's portrayal of Allah, connecting directly to verse 6, where the ask for guidance begins. Weight, medium to high, as it's both a declaration of faith and a plea for divine support. Verse 6, Ihdina siratal mustaqim digital root, 6. Tafsir and connectivity. Thematic, guide us to the straight path. This verse formally begins the supplication part of Al-Fatiha, asking for guidance in life's journey. Network connection. It connects to verse 5, where the need for Allah's help is acknowledged, and directly to verse 7, where the path is described in more detail. Weight, high, as it's the core of the prayer's request. Verse 7, Siratal ladaina an amta alayhim, Geril Magdubi alayhim walad dalin digital root. 7. Tafsir and connectivity. Thematic, the path of those whom you have blessed, not of those who have earned your anger, nor of those who have gone astray. This verse concludes Al-Fatiha by specifying the nature of the guidance sought. Network connection. It wraps up the prayer, linking back to verse 6's plea for guidance, but also connecting to the broader Quranic narrative of guidance versus misguidance, salvation versus damnation. Weight very high, as it not only concludes the prayer, but also sets moral and spiritual standards for believers. Holistic tafsir with network analysis, structural coherence, the digital roots from 1 to 7 suggest a progression in the prayer's narrative from invocation to supplication, mirroring the spiritual journey from recognition of Allah to seeking His guidance. Thematic network. Al-Fatiha can be seen as a mini-network where nodes, verses, are interconnected by themes of praise, recognition of divine attributes, acknowledgement of judgment, declaration of worship, and finally, a plea for guidance. The structure reflects a journey from the individual to the universal, from the tangible attributes of Allah to the abstract spiritual guidance. Educational use. This analysis can help in teaching the structural beauty of Al-Fatiha, how each verse builds upon the last, creating a coherent and complete prayer. Scholarly implications. By understanding these connections, scholars can explore deeper into how Al-Fatiha encapsulates key Islamic concepts in a concise manner, serving as both a daily prayer and a summary of the Quranic ethos. This extended tafsir, enriched by network analysis, not only deepens our understanding of Al-Fatiha, but also exemplifies how traditional exegesis can be enhanced by modern analytical methods, always ensuring respect for the sacred text's inherent meanings and teachings. Continuing the tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha with an integration of network and digital root analysis, further thematic and semantic exploration, intertextuality with other Quranic passages, verse 1 and 2, thematic echoes, the phrase Alhamdulillahi, all praise is due to Allah, is echoed in other parts of the Quran like Surah Al-An'am 6:1 and Al-Kahf 18:1. This creates a network of praise, highlighting the centrality of gratitude and acknowledgement of Allah in Islamic theology. Verse 3, divine attributes. The repeated mention of Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim can be linked to Surah Al-Araf 7:156, where these attributes are further elaborated in the context of Prophet Muhammad's mission, showing a network of mercy across the Quran. Verse 4, judgment. The concept of Maliki Yawmiddin, Master of the Day of Judgment, connects to numerous verses throughout the Quran that speak of accountability, like Al-Anbiya 21:47, forming a thematic network of eschatology. Verse 5, monotheism and dependence. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship and you alone we ask for help, resonates with Surah Al-Araf 7:55, where the exclusivity of worship to Allah is emphasized, creating a strong node of Tawheed, oneness of God, in the Quranic network. Verse 6 and 7. Guidance. The plea for guidance ties directly into Surah Al-Baqarah 2:2, which starts with, "This is the book, in it is guidance sure, without doubt," illustrating a network of guidance that runs through the Quran, from the opening surah to others. Digital root implications, pattern recognition. The digital roots ascending from 1 to 7 could be seen as symbolic of the spiritual journey from the mundane to the divine, from creation to the creator, from ignorance to enlightenment. Thematic clusters. If we consider digital roots as markers, we could hypothesize that lower digital roots, 1, 2, 3, might generally pertain to the acknowledgement of Allah and His attributes. Middle roots, 4, 5, might delve into human interaction with the divine, including worship and seeking help. Higher roots, 6, 7, could be associated with the ultimate purpose of life, seeking guidance and distinguishing the right path from the wrong. Network dynamics in prayer. Recitation and reflection. Al-Fatiha's structure in prayer allows for a dynamic interaction where each recitation could be seen as a node in a personal spiritual network, where the worshipper connects with these themes repeatedly, potentially deepening their understanding and connection with each recitation. Community aspect. When recited in congregation, Al-Fatiha forms a communal network where individual spiritual experiences are linked, creating a collective spiritual journey through shared worship. Practical applications, teaching and learning, visual tools. Based on this analysis could be developed to teach the structure of Al-Fatiha, showing how each verse is not isolated but part of a larger thematic network. Scholarly research. Scholars could explore how digital root analysis correlates with traditional thematic divisions, or tafsir, perhaps leading to new insights or confirmation of established interpretations. Digital Quranic studies. Implement this analysis in digital Qurans or apps where users can explore these connections interactively, perhaps through layers of commentary that link to other verses or surahs with similar themes or digital roots. Ethical and cultural considerations. Respect for tradition. Any analysis should be presented with an acknowledgement of the traditional tafsir, ensuring that this method complements rather than supplants established interpretations. Cultural sensitivity. Recognize that different Islamic traditions might emphasize different aspects of Al-Fatiha, and thus the digital root and network analysis should be adaptable to various schools of thought within Islam. Concluding thoughts. By integrating digital root and network analysis into the tafsir of Al-Fatiha, we not only enrich our understanding of this surah, but also open up a methodological approach that could be applied to other parts of the Quran. This approach respects the sanctity of the text while employing contemporary tools to explore its timeless message, potentially fostering a deeper, more interconnected appreciation of the Quran's teachings. Continuing the tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha, with further exploration into the implications of digital root and network analysis, advanced interpretations, symbolic interpretation of digital roots, unity and multiplicity. The progression from 1 to 7 in digital roots might symbolically represent unity, 1, the singularity of Allah and the start of all prayers. Duality, 2, the recognition of Allah's creation, the dichotomy between creator and creation. Trinity, 3, not in the Christian sense, but perhaps the three aspects of worship: acknowledgement, praise and supplication. Quaternity, 4. The four directions, possibly symbolizing Allah's dominion over all aspects of existence. Quintessence, 5, the essence of worship, where humans acknowledge their dependency on Allah. Hexad, 6, the connection to perfection in Islamic numerology, where seeking guidance aligns with the quest for spiritual perfection. Septenary, 7, often linked to completion or the end of a cycle, here representing the conclusion of the prayer and the hope for divine guidance leading to spiritual completion. Network analysis in daily life, spiritual growth. Each recitation of Al-Fatiha could be considered a node in the personal spiritual journey of a Muslim, where each node links to personal growth, reflection, and understanding of the Quran's teachings based on life experiences. Social bonds. Al-Fatiha's recitation in communal prayer settings forms a network of social bonds where the shared experience of worship connects individuals, strengthening community ties through shared spiritual objectives. Interdisciplinary approaches, psychological insights. The psychological impact of reciting Al-Fatiha daily could be explored, looking at how the structured nature of its verses might influence the psyche, promoting states of peace, gratitude, and humility. Linguistic analysis. A deeper dive into the Arabic language of Al-Fatiha could reveal how word choice, rhythm, and syntax contribute to the thematic network, perhaps using natural language processing to quantify these effects. Extension to other surahs. Comparative Tafsir. Use Al-Fatiha as a model to analyze other opening verses of surahs or those with similar themes, looking for digital root patterns or network connections that might highlight thematic continuities or contrasts across the Quran. Thematic mapping. Create a thematic map of the Quran where Al-Fatiha serves as a central hub, with connections radiating out to other surahs or verses that echo or expand upon its themes. Educational and devotional tools. Interactive learning. Develop apps or educational modules where students can interact with a visual representation of Al-Fatiha's network, clicking through to explore connections perhaps with multimedia content like videos or audio explanations from scholars. Spiritual reflection. Create devotional aids where the user can meditate on the digital roots and network connections, perhaps through guided reflections or meditative practices that focus on each verse's significance and the broader context. Community and scholarly engagement. Scholarly workshops. Host workshops where these analytical methods are discussed in light of traditional tafsir, inviting feedback to refine approaches, ensuring they align with Islamic principles. Community feedback. Engage with different Muslim communities globally to understand how these interpretations resonate, adapt the methodology to respect cultural nuances, and gather insights for further development. Future directions, long-term studies that examine how this method of analysis impacts understanding and practice among Muslims over time. Does it lead to new interpretations or strengthen existing ones? Interfaith dialogue. Use similar analytical methods to compare opening prayers or foundational texts in other religions, promoting interfaith understanding by focusing on structural similarities or philosophical parallels. AI and ethical considerations. As AI technology advances, consider how it might be used to further enhance Quranic studies while maintaining ethical boundaries, ensuring that AI aids, not dictates, human understanding of sacred texts. By pushing the boundaries of traditional tafsir with these modern analytical tools, we not only enrich our understanding of Al-Fatiha, but also contribute to a broader, more interconnected approach to studying the Quran. This method respects the past while exploring new avenues for spiritual and intellectual growth. The Quran is a source of profound wisdom and guidance. It has been a beacon of light for millions of people throughout history, offering insights and principles that transcend time and place. It speaks to humanity across time and cultures, bridging gaps and fostering a sense of unity among diverse communities. The Quran's teachings resonate with people from all walks of life, providing a common ground for understanding and compassion. We can explore its depths in many ways. Scholars and researchers have dedicated their lives to studying its verses, uncovering layers of meaning and interpretation. Through meticulous analysis and reflection, they reveal the Quran's timeless relevance. One intriguing approach is through digital roots and network theory. This modern method allows us to analyze the Quran in ways that were previously unimaginable, using technology to map out its intricate web of ideas. This method helps us see the Quran as a network of interconnected ideas. By visualizing the relationships between verses, we can gain new insights into the text's structure and meaning. Imagine each verse as a point of light. Each one shines with its own unique brilliance, contributing to the overall illumination of the Quran's message. These points connect, forming a constellation of meaning. Just as stars in the night sky create patterns and shapes, the verses of the Quran interlink to form a cohesive and profound narrative. By analyzing these connections, we can uncover hidden relationships. This approach allows us to see how different parts of the Quran relate to each other, revealing deeper layers of understanding. We can gain a deeper understanding of the Quran's message. Through this network analysis, we can appreciate the Quran's complexity and its ability to convey profound wisdom in a harmonious and interconnected manner. This method not only enhances our comprehension, but also enriches our spiritual connection to the text. In our network, each verse becomes a node. These nodes are not just random points, they are carefully chosen elements that represent the essence of the Quranic message. Each node holds a unique piece of information, a distinct verse that contributes to the overall understanding of the text. Nodes are like cities on a map. Just as cities are hubs of activity and culture, these nodes are centers of meaning and significance within the Quran. They are the building blocks of our network, each one playing a crucial role in the larger picture. They represent distinct points of information. Each city on a map has its own unique characteristics, and similarly, each verse in the Quran has its own unique message and context. These points of information are the foundation upon which we build our understanding. The connections between them are called edges. These edges are not arbitrary, they are carefully drawn lines that represent the relationships between different verses. They show how one verse can lead to another, creating a pathway of understanding. Edges act like roads, linking verses together. Just as roads connect cities, these edges connect verses, allowing us to travel from one idea to another. They help us navigate the complex landscape of the Quran, making it easier to see how different parts are interconnected. These connections can be based on various factors. Shared themes, linguistic similarities, and numerical patterns can all form edges. For example, verses that share a common theme, such as mercy or justice, can be linked together. Similarly, verses that use similar linguistic structures or patterns can also be connected, and numerical patterns can all form edges. These patterns are not just random coincidences, they are deliberate choices that add depth and complexity to the text. By identifying these patterns, we can gain a deeper understanding of the Quran's message. By studying these edges, we can see how different parts of the Quran relate to each other. This relational understanding allows us to see the Quran as a cohesive whole, rather than a collection of isolated verses. It helps us appreciate the interconnectedness of its message. We can begin to appreciate the intricate tapestry of its message. The Quran is not just a series of disconnected statements. It is a carefully woven tapestry of ideas and themes. By connecting the dots, we can see the beauty and complexity of its message and gain a deeper appreciation for its wisdom and guidance. Not all connections are equal. Some links between verses are stronger than others. We represent this difference through weighted connections. Imagine a thick road signifying a strong relationship between verses. A thin road indicates a weaker link. The weight of the connection reflects the depth of the relationship. This weighting helps us prioritize our analysis. We can focus on the most significant connections within the Quranic network. To make sense of this network, we need rules. We call these rules axioms. Axioms are fundamental principles that guide our understanding. One axiom might be stronger thematic links between verses result in stronger connections. Another could be symmetry in thematic connections amplifies their weight. These axioms provide a framework for analyzing the Quranic network. They help us interpret the connections between verses in a meaningful way. Section 5. Patterns in Numbers Unveiling Hidden Structures. In this section, we delve into the fascinating world of numerical patterns within the Quran, exploring how these hidden structures can offer deeper insights into the text. Numbers play a significant role in the Quran. They are not just mere figures, but hold profound symbolic meanings and connections that can be uncovered through careful analysis. Digital root analysis reveals fascinating patterns. This method involves reducing numbers to their simplest form, which can then be used to identify hidden relationships within the text. The digital root of a number is found by adding its digits repeatedly until a single digit remains. For instance, the number 123 would be reduced to 1 plus 2 plus 3, which equals 6. This single digit can then be used to find connections between different verses. These digital roots can form connections between verses. By examining the digital roots of verse numbers, scholars can uncover patterns that might not be immediately apparent. For example, verses with the same digital root might share thematic similarities. This can provide a new perspective on the text, revealing underlying themes and messages that are consistent throughout the Quran. By studying these numerical patterns, we can uncover hidden structures within the Quran. These structures can offer insights into the divine wisdom and intricate design of the text, showing how every element is interconnected. This method can reveal new layers of meaning and interconnectedness. By understanding the numerical patterns, we can appreciate the depth and complexity of the Quran, gaining a greater appreciation for its divine origin and the meticulous care with which it was composed. The study of numerical patterns is not just an academic exercise, it is a journey into the heart of the Quran, where numbers and words come together to form a tapestry of divine knowledge. This exploration can deepen our understanding and connection to the text, enriching our spiritual journey. As we continue to unveil these hidden structures, we open new doors to understanding the Quran. Each discovery brings us closer to the divine message, allowing us to see the Quran in a new light and appreciate its timeless wisdom. In conclusion, the study of numerical patterns in the Quran is a powerful tool for uncovering hidden meanings and connections. It is a testament to the Quran's divine origin and the intricate design that lies within its verses. Through this exploration, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the Quran and its timeless message. Section 6. Mapping the Quran, a digital tapestry. Digital tools allow us to visualize these connections. We can create a digital map of the Quran. This map helps us see the network of verses and their relationships. This visualization can be interactive. We can zoom in on specific verses or themes. We can explore the connections in detail. This digital tapestry provides a powerful tool for studying and reflecting on the Quran. Section 7. Pathfinding algorithms, navigating the sea of knowledge. Pathfinding algorithms are like compasses. They help us navigate the vast network of the Quran. These algorithms find the shortest path between two verses based on the connections we've defined. This path reveals a chain of related verses. It allows us to follow a specific theme or idea through the Quran. This method can be invaluable for thematic studies and comparative analysis. Section 8. Respecting tradition, the importance of tafsir. While this new approach offers valuable insights, it's crucial to respect tradition. Tafsir, the traditional Islamic interpretation of the Quran, remains essential. We must use this method as a complement to tafsir, not a replacement. Any findings from network analysis should be validated against traditional interpretations. This ensures our understanding remains grounded in the rich history of Quranic scholarship. Section 9. Ethical considerations, navigating sensitive grounds. Analyzing the Quran through digital routes and networks raises ethical considerations. We must approach this method with sensitivity and respect. We must avoid making far-fetched claims or interpretations. The Quran's meaning is multifaceted and open to different understandings. Our analysis should encourage reflection and thoughtful discussion, not definitive pronouncements. Section 10. A new perspective, challenges and opportunities. This novel approach to understanding the Quran presents both challenges and opportunities. It requires careful consideration and rigorous methodology. However, it also offers a fresh perspective on the Quran's interconnectedness. It can deepen our appreciation for its wisdom and guidance. By embracing both tradition and innovation, we can unlock new levels of understanding within the Quran's timeless message. Pause 3SS, Section 11. Bridging tradition and innovation. As we delve deeper into the intersection of digital root analysis and Quranic scholarship, it becomes essential to balance innovation with tradition. This dual approach can enrich our understanding while respecting the Quran's profound depth. Extended definitions network N. Imagine the Quran as a network where each verse is a node and connections between them are edges. These connections can be either one-way or reciprocal, reflecting the dynamic nature of their relationships. Weight, W. Each connection can have a weight, indicating its thematic, linguistic, or revelational significance. This weight could be determined by factors like frequency of scholarly citation or depth of thematic similarity. Additional axioms, Axiom 7, consistency and connection strength. Every connection, V1, V2 in the network has a weight, W, V1, V2, that quantifies its strength or relevance. This weight can be normalized or ranked. Axiom 8, symmetry of thematic links. Not all connections need to be bidirectional. Some verses might be thematically linked in one direction, creating an asymmetric network structure. Theorems and corollaries. Corollary to Theorem 1. Introducing weights may complicate the combined metric, CM. The formula might need adjustment to include weight, possibly as CM, V1, V2, equal sign DRN V1 plus DOS, V1, V2 plus WVG1, V2. Theorem 3, pattern recognition. Patterns in digital roots might correspond with thematic clusters or specific surahs, offering a mathematical basis for identifying structural coherence or thematic groupings. Proof of Theorem 3. By examining the distribution of digital roots across verses with similar themes or revelation periods, one could identify patterns or anomalies statistically. Methodology for application digital root mapping. Visualize each verse based on its digital root with connections drawn between them. This could reveal clusters or outliers in the Quranic text. Pathfinding algorithms. Use algorithms like Dijkstra's or A** to find the shortest path between verses, aiding thematic studies or uncovering less obvious connections. Simulation and analysis. Run simulations to see how changes in thematic link importance affect the network's connectivity or combined metrics distribution. Critical considerations. Cultural and scholastic sensitivity. Numerical or connectivity-based analysis must respect Islamic scholarship, as interpretations often carry deep cultural and theological significance. Validation through tafsir. Traditional exegesis, tafsir, should validate or challenge findings from this model, ensuring alignment with theological insights. Ethical use. Avoid reducing the Quran's rich meanings to mere numbers or connections, which might be seen as reductive or sacrilegious by some. This approach marries mathematical theory with religious text, potentially opening new study avenues while ensuring scholarly and community acceptance. It's a fascinating blend of numerology, network theory, and religious studies, inviting us to explore the Quran's timeless wisdom through a contemporary lens.